What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus from metaltrenches.com. As always, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and like the video and share it if you enjoy it. As I lay dying, as many of you probably know, especially if you clicked on this particular video, their new album is finally on the horizon. And I thought it would be appropriate to sort of look back at all the previous albums in ranking format, just because I like to do it. It's easy to do, I'm not going to lie, but it's also kind of fun, and it just gives me a way to kind of talk through each of these albums. And just starting from the beginning, we've got 2001's Beneath the Encasing of Ashes. And as many metalcore debuts go, it's a little clunky. It's got a lot of problems. It's sort of all over the place sound-wise. I'm kind of kicking myself because I owned this album and I traded it for something else, and it's actually kind of worth some money right now. But in any case, that aside, it's not a great album. It's got some early versions of songs that ended up on Frail Words Collapse. But aside from that, it's just kind of like a relic. It's kind of a cool collector's item to have. And, everybody starts somewhere. So this is where they get their beginning. I don't really have much more to say on it than that. But obviously where they really came into their own and sort of their proper debut was Frail Words Collapse, 2003. This was my introduction to the band. I still remember to this day seeing it on the shelf with Bleeding Through's This Is Love, This Is Murderous at Hot Topic, and only having enough money for one of them, and I had to choose. And I actually forget which one I ultimately picked that day, but then I did go back and get the other one as well. So just, a little window into where my mentality was at that point. I think I was about junior year of high school at that point, and have a lot of fond memories with this album. It's very strong. I think it deserves it hasn't aged fantastic. I don't go back and listen to it as much as I used to, but for the time, I think this was a really important release. Everybody was listening to this that was listening to metalcore. It's just one of those big benchmark albums where it's just defining sort of what riffs, especially, and just the overall structure of metalcore were going to sound like. This alongside Poison the Well and Killswitch Engage. This was the time where they were really just sort of putting the rule book into place of, okay, this is what metalcore is right now. And lots of classic songs on here. I remember also trying to learn some of these riffs. These were probably some of the first metalcore riffs I was trying to learn. So 94 Hours. I think that and Last Serenade were among those first songs that I attempted to learn. I never got particularly great at them. But anyways, moving on, let's go to Shadows Are Security at 2005. And I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of this album. It's grown on me over the years, but I found it to be kind of a disappointing follow-up. I think it ranks at about a C. It's definitely better than Beneath the Encasing of Ashes, but their worst of sort of their major label releases. Again, it's got a couple songs on it that I really love, like Confined. But aside from that, it's pretty inconsistent. I feel like there's a lot of filler. It's just sort of dull in comparison to what I've come to expect in their overall quality. So yeah, not a great album. I know some people really love it, but personally, I just don't find there to be a ton of substance to it. But where things really started to step up their game, and for me, their S tier album is clearly An Ocean Between Us. There's no question in my mind about this. There's some bands where I really agonize over, okay, which one's really the best? Which one would I absolutely choose as the only album from them? If I was on a desert island and I could only have one As I Lay Dying album, it would easily be An Ocean Between Us. I wouldn't even have to think about it. Every song on this album is incredible. The riffs are fantastic. It's so good. There's so many things good about it. It's my most jammed album from them for sure. It's still aged quite well, I think. I go back and listen to it quite regularly. And not just for nostalgia, I just think all around it's well produced, it's well written, songwriting is on point, it's pretty dynamic. The choruses are absolutely anthemic. You cannot listen to these songs without singing along to them. It's impossible. So yeah, for all those reasons, An Ocean Between Us has to be S tier. All right, and then in 2010, we got The Powerless Rise, which was sort of an album that sort of slipped by me. I was sort of not as in the loop at this point with what As I Lay Dying was doing. And ultimately, I think I'm going to put it about B tier. It's a great follow-up to An Ocean Between Us. It just doesn't have quite the same impact, but still very consistent. I really like all the songs on this album. There's a lot of riffs I really enjoy. And yeah, it's good stuff. It just, I don't have the same memories associated with it. So I guess that's kind of subjective, because a lot of these other albums were like high school, college days. Whereas now, when we get into these later albums, it's more sort of adulthood and sort of just like, you know, working a day job, 9 to 5, and, you know, coming home and doing family stuff. And so it just doesn't lend itself quite to the same memories. So I suppose if you were younger when this album came out, you probably may have kind of stronger memories with it. But in any case, as far as just musically and songwriting again and production, it's really good stuff. And then finally Awakened in 2012. I think that's another one that I put at about B tier, maybe A tier. Solid album. There are some songs on here that I feel like they sort of stretched a little bit too far in the poppy direction, and even like some of the production on a couple of those tracks is sort of like, I don't know about this. I had some misgivings about some of the cleaner stuff on here, but as far as the heavy tracks go, they're as heavy as ever, and some of my favorites from the band overall. Tracks like Cauterize, Greater Foundation, Defender, all amazing stuff, but it is like, I think it's also just kind of overlong. It has a lot of tracks on it, which personally, I think an album is stronger if you can just narrow it down to those top like 9 to 10 tracks. That's usually the sweet spot. Once you start going beyond that, you start to run into some problems with filler. But yeah, I mean, ultimately looking over this list, they're a strong band for a reason. Like, they haven't really put out bad releases, and even that kind of early material has just a certain charm to it where they were forming their ideas and who they wanted to be as a band. And again, even though Shadows of Security is my least favorite, it's one that has definitely positive qualities to it. And it's by no means a bad album. It just is a little bit less interesting. So in any case, based on the new singles, I'm really excited to hear what they cook up next on this new album. And all controversy aside, like, it's just exciting to me to hear again from one of the best metalcore bands in the business. But that'll do it for now. Again, please do subscribe, like, comment. Engagement helps us really with the algorithm and moves us up, gets more people to see us so that we can share out all these other underground bands too on the other videos that I'm doing. And then, of course, again, if you're a regular viewer, please hit up our Patreon and support us so that we can help cover our overhead costs and get to a point where I can put some money back into the site again too, so that we can do some upgrades and maybe add some other elements and things of that nature. But for now, Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.